Listen, I need to talk to you about something that's going to affect almost every single one of us at some point. We're talking about high blood pressure. And here's the scary part: 90% of you watching this video right now will deal with this condition in your lifetime. They call it the silent killer. And trust me, that name didn't come out of nowhere. Now, before you click away thinking that this is just another boring health lecture, please don't. Instead, stick with me because I'm about to share 10 proven strategies that can actually lower your blood pressure naturally without having to pop pills every single day. And some of these might really surprise you. First, let's start with the basics. Your blood is constantly flowing through your body, right? But for it to move forward, it has to push against the walls of your blood vessels, kind of like water flowing through a pipe, something like that. That pressure is always changing. When your heart squeezes and contracts, your blood pressure shoots up to the top number, which is the systolic pressure. Then, when your heart relaxes between beats, the pressure drops down to that lower number, which is the diastolic pressure. Are you with me so far? Well, here's what most people don't realize: high blood pressure is literally damaging your blood vessels every single day. In fact, up to 50% of all heart attacks and strokes are caused by hypertension. Let that sink in for a second. Yes, you heard right. I said half of them. All right, so what can we actually do about it? Let's talk about your diet first, because this is huge. There's this one particular diet that's been proven to drop your blood pressure by 5 to 6 points, and it's called the DASH diet, DASH. Now, don't worry, it's not some crazy restrictive thing. It's basically just eating like a normal, healthy person. More whole foods, more lean proteins, and way less salt and processed junk. Speaking of salt, I know sodium has become this controversial topic lately, with everyone arguing back and forth about it. But here's the thing: the science is crystal clear on this one. If your blood pressure is high and you want to fix it without medication, you absolutely need to cut your sodium down to a maximum of 2 grams per day. Make sure you listen to this. Now, here's where most people mess up. They think that they need to throw away their salt shaker once and for all, and that will solve all the problems. But believe it or not, the salt you add to your food at the table is just a tiny fraction of what you're actually consuming. Let me explain. The real culprit: about 80% of your salt intake is coming from processed foods and restaurant meals. I'll give you a perfect example. You know those healthy looking Mediterranean bowls that you see at restaurants? The ones with quinoa, and veggies that seem super nutritious? One of those bowls can have more sodium in it than you're supposed to eat in an entire day. Crazy, right? Let me tell you about what happened in Finland, because this story is absolutely mind blowing. A few decades ago, they passed this law in Finland that required warning labels on high salt foods and put promotional labels on healthy, low sodium, high potassium options. And they made sure that the food still tasted really good, which is the key, right? Even the McDonald's fast food restaurant in Finland got pressured into making a low sodium hamburger. So, what were the results? Researchers tracked the health of the entire nation over the next few decades, and the results were absolutely astonishing. Sodium intake dropped by 30%, and the average systolic blood pressure dropped by 10 points. But it gets even better. in middle-aged people, death rates from heart attacks and strokes decreased by 80%. Yes, 80%. And life expectancy went up by several years for both men and women. But Finland didn't just focus on lowering sodium. They also push foods that are high in potassium, and this is really important. You can almost think of potassium as the antidote to sodium, where sodium stiffens your blood vessels and makes them tight, while potassium relaxes them and helps them stay flexible. Plus, potassium helps your kidneys flush out excess sodium through your urine. Studies have shown that just by eating more potassium-rich foods like bananas, oranges, sweet potatoes, spinach, and beans, you can lower your blood pressure by 5 to 7 points. Now, I do need to give you a warning here. Loading up on potassium isn't safe for everyone. If you have kidney problems or if you're taking medications that can cause you to retain potassium, this strategy could actually be kind of dangerous for you. So definitely talk to your doctor before you start making any big changes in your diet. Now let's talk about exercise. I call it movement because this is where things get really interesting. For years, everyone thought that cardio was the best way to lower blood pressure. And it definitely helps, of course. But new research is showing that other types of exercise might actually be even more effective. And I'm going to explain. There was this massive analysis published in the BMI in 2023 that looked at 217 different studies to figure out which exercises work best for lowering blood pressure naturally. And the clear winner? Isometric exercises. That's things like wall squats and planks. These lowered systolic blood pressure by up to 8 points. Now, if you're excited about doing planks and wall sits, that's fantastic. And I'm genuinely happy for you if you're one of those people. But for the rest of us who aren't exactly thrilled about that idea, here's the good news. This same study also proved that any type of exercise will help lower your blood pressure. High intensity, low intensity, cardio, strength training, it all makes a big difference. So just find what works for you and what you will actually stick with, because that's important. Consistency. Now here's something else that happens when you start eating better and exercising. You're probably going to lose some weight. And that's another powerful tool in your arsenal, because for every kilogram that you lose, which is about 2.2 pounds, your blood pressure should drop by about 1 point. So that's good news, isn't it? All right, now let's continue. I'm not done yet. Before we continue, I would like to introduce my comprehensive guide, Healing Over 40 Using Natural Remedies. This guide is where you will find natural healing remedies you need as you age. All 36 chapters are jam-packed with a deeper dive into maintaining good health using natural herbs. You most certainly want to grab this from the link in the description, and you'll be so glad that you did. Now, let's talk about alcohol for a second, because this one surprises a lot of people. You might feel more relaxed after having a drink or two, which is why it catches people off guard. To learn that alcohol actually raises your blood pressure. Did you know that? Well, especially if you're having more than 2 drinks per day. And if you needed another reason not to smoke, here it is. Smoking has a massive impact on your blood pressure. Not only does nicotine spike your blood pressure right away, but smoking also damages the inner lining of your blood vessels over time, which makes them stiffer and raises your blood pressure even more in the long run. Sleep is another huge factor that people don't talk about enough, or maybe they don't know. Getting less than 6 hours of sleep per night has been shown to increase your risk of high blood pressure. And I'm not just talking about quantity here, I'm talking about quality sleep as well. Some people can sleep for a full 8 hours and still wake up feeling absolutely exhausted. This can be a sign of obstructive sleep apnea, which is a condition where your breathing actually starts and stops throughout the night. So you're not getting enough sleep. And here's the thing, sleep apnea is one of the major causes of resistant hypertension, the kind that does not respond well to treatment. So if you're really tired during the day, even after you get a full 8 hour of sleep, or if your partner tells you that you're choking, gasping, or snoring really loud at night, those are red flags. So you need to see the doctor and talk about getting tested for sleep apnea and see what he or she can do about it. Well, what about stress? This is where the answer gets a little less straightforward than you might think. Intuitively, we all know that stress has a serious impact on our bodies, right? And it's absolutely true that acute stress, like getting startled or upset, can cause a brief spike in your blood pressure. If you didn't know, you now know. But when it comes to chronic stress, the long-term kind that just grinds on you day after day, the research isn't quite as clear. What seems to matter most is how we cope with that stress. Are you eating more junk food for comfort food, drinking more, smoking more? All of those behaviors directly impact your blood pressure. So taking a moment to be mindful about how you're managing stress in a healthy way is really, really important. And here's a fun one. I'm going to throw a fun one in as a bonus. Studies have shown that pet owners, especially dog owners, tend to have lower blood pressure. And get this, one small study actually showed that the effect of adopting a pet was even greater than taking a standard blood pressure medication. Yes? Now, obviously, don't go out and get a pet just for this. But if you've been on the fence about it, maybe this is a sign or confirmation that you've been waiting for. All right? Okay, so let's say that you're doing all of these things and your blood pressure is actually coming down. That's fantastic, wouldn't you think? But you may still be wondering, what number are we actually aiming for? And can you go too low? I'm glad you asked. There was this really important study called the SPRINT trial that aimed to answer exactly this question. Researchers compared a target blood pressure of 140 to a target of 120 in a large group of adults who had high blood pressure and were at increased risk of heart disease. And the results were groundbreaking. The group with the lower target had a 25% lower risk of heart attack and stroke, and a 27% lower risk of death from all causes. Now, the more intensive treatment did come with some trade-offs, like higher rates of side effects such as dizziness and kidney issues. But the benefits were significant enough that some of the major medical guidelines have actually lowered their threshold for diagnosing hypertension from 140 over 90 down to 130 over 80. Now look, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by all of this information. You don't have to make all of these changes at once. Sustainability and consistency is what really matters here. Adding in small changes over time can have a huge impact in the long run, of course. So here's what I want you to do. Pick just one thing from this list that we just discussed that you will start implementing today. Maybe it's cutting back on processed foods, which is a great start. Maybe it's going for a walk every day. It's also a good start. Maybe it's finally getting that sleep study that you've been putting off to see if you have sleep apnea or not. Whatever it is, leave a comment below and tell me what you're going to commit to. I would love to know. That simple act of writing it down and putting it out there will help you stick with it. Because remember, consistency is the key. And here's the reality. Even if you do everything right, your blood pressure might still be elevated from one day to the other. Some people just need medication, and that's completely okay. Medications can be incredibly helpful, and sometimes they're absolutely necessary for some people. But you don't have to stay on them forever if you choose the healthier path that we just discussed today. Okay, so now that's it for now. If you learned something valuable today, do me a favor and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Please subscribe to Nature's Healing Corner. We're all about giving you practical, safe, natural healing information so that you can feel better and live healthier. Remember now to grab that guide that I mentioned, Healing Over 40 Using Natural Remedies. The link is in the description below. And remember that high blood pressure affects over 1 billion people worldwide. That's a billion with a B. And together we can raise awareness and help people take control of their health, which I know that you want to do like I do. So stay curious, but stay healthy. Thanks for hanging out with me today. See you in the next video, and take care.